Hello everybody, and I wish you a very good and easy fast tomorrow, depending on when you see this. So today's edition of the Shulchan Aruch is Siman Reish Beis, chapter 202. Hilchos Tumas Kohein, the laws of defilement of a Kohein. The Kohein is commanded not to defile himself through any form of contact with the deceased. Even an aborted fetus whose limbs have not yet been connected with a ligamentous tissue is considered in this regard as a dead body. If, however, the abortion occurred within 40 days from conception, it is considered like water. The dead body need not be in its entirety, for this law applies even to things that have separated from the corpse, such as blood and the like. It is also forbidden to defile himself through contact with the severed limb of a dead living person. If there is enough flesh on it that it was still connected, it would have possibly healed. Even if it is his own limb, he is forbidden to defile himself by touching it. A Kohen is forbidden to enter a house where a person is close to death, even though a Gosius, a dying person, is considered alive with regard to everything else, and he is not considered impure. Nevertheless, the Kohen, by entering such a house, violates the command, "You should not desecrate," from Leviticus 21:12. A Kohen is forbidden to attend medical school, for he is commanded to guard his priesthood so that it does not become profaned, and the Gosius may die at any time. A Kohen is forbidden to enter a dwelling where there is a dead body, even if the dwelling is very large. Even if there are 2 rooms and there is a dead body in one of them, and in the wall that separates them there is a whole 1 tefach square, he is forbidden to enter even the second room, because the whole of 1 tefach square conducts the impurity into the second room. Likewise, if next to the second room there is yet a third room, and between them 2 there is a whole 1 tefach square, the impurity passes also to the third room, and so ad infinitum. If the hole was made to admit light, even if the hole is only the size of a small coin, the impurity passes through. Therefore, in our regions where the roofs project towards the outside with a width of no less than 1 tefach, and since we know that the width of 1 tefach conveys impurity, this projecting roof is considered a tent, which conveys impurity. Hence, when 2 houses are close to each other, if the deceased is in one of them, the impurity passes through the door or an open window beneath the ends of the projecting rooftop, and enters into the second house through the open window or door. Thus, a Kohen is forbidden to enter even the second house. This is true even if there are many houses closely adjoining one another. Number 4. Even if the roofs were not of the same height, but one is higher than the other, even if the roof of the house where the impurity is found is much higher than the second roof, or vice versa, there is a halacha handed down by Moses from Mount Sinai, that when the height is considered as lowered, that is, we consider as though the height were pressed and lowered until it reaches the lower one. And since if it were lowered to the level of the bottom one, they would touch, therefore the impurity passes from one to the other. If there would be space between them, even if ever so small, the impurity is not passed from one to another. Number 5. Similarly, if a beam lies across an alley as done for an Eruv, and is a tefach wide, and is covered by the roofs projecting above it to the extent of a tefach on each side, like this. And there's a picture here if you have the Shulchan Aruch on page 1225. In such a case, the impurity passes from underneath the roof to underneath the beam, which conveys the impurity to underneath the roof of the house on the opposite side. From there it spreads to any place where there is a dwelling no less than 1 tefach wide, until it reaches a barrier or open space. Also, if between the 2 houses there is an ark constructed on the style of a court entrance like this, the same law applies. And although the arch has no projecting roof, nevertheless the impurity transmits from beneath the roof to underneath the arch. However, at times an arch is constructed on posts from the ground up, which close the space between the arch and the walls of the house. Then, if the arch has no projecting roof covering it, and the closed spaces on the sides extend further than the roofs that are above it, in such a case there is no space through which the impurity may pass, since there is an open space without a tent covering. At times, between the houses there is a solid closed wall without an opening like this, but there is a projecting roof over it. Then the impurity is conveyed from one roof to the other, to another. When necessary, this can be remedied by moving the tiles of the roof in one place to create an interrupting open space of a tefach wide without a tent. You must be certain that the wall itself does not project a tefach, and sometimes they make a projection to adorn the wall. Number 6 says, Halacha transmitted to Moses from Sinai concerning the door through which the deceased will be carried from the house. Since after the removal, the house will be richly pure, although the door is now closed. Nevertheless, according to halacha, it is considered as though it is open, and therefore a Kohen is forbidden to stand under the lintel, even though the door is closed. Also, if there is a roof projecting a tefach over the door, it conveys the impurity to every possible place, as though the door were open. However, if there was an open door or window on another side measuring 4 square tefachim, the closed door is not considered as being open, and a Kohen is permitted to stand there, provided the impurity cannot reach him through the open door or window. Number 7, if a Kohen is in a house or a room, the doors and windows of which are closed in such a manner that the door is not opened at tefach, and the window does not have an opening the size of a pundion, a coin, pundion maybe, and he hears that there is a corpse in the vicinity, so that if the door were to be open, the impurity would reach him. He's forbidden to open either of them, but he shall remain there as is, until the deceased is carried out. For as long as there is not an opening of a tefach, the impurity cannot penetrate, but when it is opened, it can penetrate. Number 8, a Kohen is forbidden to approach within 4 amos of a deceased person or grave. This applies only when the deceased lies in his permanent place. But when he lies on the bier during the funeral procession, or when they are saying Sita Kadin, even when they stop at the bier, since this is not his permanent place, the Kohen need keep away only a distance of 4 tefachim. Number 9, if a Kohen is asleep in a house where there is a deceased person, where the impurity of the deceased penetrates, and it is impossible to shut him in order to prevent the access of the impurity, he should be awakened and told to leave the premises. If he is undressed, he should not be told about the impurity, but merely called outside so that he may get dressed first. A person's dignity is very important. However, as soon as he is aware of the impurity, he is forbidden to wait there until he gets dressed, but must leave immediately. Number 10. Some poskim maintain that even the corpse of a non-Jew causes impurity in a house. A Kohen should be mindful of this opinion and not walk over the grave of a non-Jew, especially when there is reason to believe that an apostate may have been buried there too, for an apostate is like a Jew in this regard. Also, the child born by an apostate woman from a non-Jew is like a Jew as well as in this regard. Number 11. A Kohen is permitted to defile himself at the death of his relatives, and it's a mitzvah for him to do so. These are the relatives for which he may defile himself: his wife, whom he was permitted to marry, his father, his mother, his son or his daughter, his brother and sister born from his father, provided that they were born full term, but not for a child who may have been aborted. A Kohen may not defile himself. He may not defile himself for a married sister, even if she was divorced or widowed and no longer married. The Poskim maintain that which a Kohen is permitted, and this is a mitzvah to defile himself relative only for the need of burial, or to bring a coffin or shrouds and the like. Consequently, on Shabbos, a day when he may not be buried, a Kohen is forbidden to defile himself, even in order to guide the deceased. It is proper to follow this strict opinion. However, concerning things necessary for burial, it is certainly a mitzvah for him to defile himself. Even if there is a burial society to take care of all the arrangements, and he has nothing to take care of, he is permitted to be in the house in case they might need something. He may defile himself for these relatives only until the grave is closed and not thereafter. Number 12. A Kohen is forbidden to defile himself for his parents who abandoned the practices of the Jewish people, and not for one who committed suicide. Similarly, a Kohen is forbidden to defile himself for anyone for whom the rule of mourning need not be observed. Number 13. A Kohen may not defile himself for a relative unless the body is complete, but not if it is missing a limb. Therefore, some poskim maintain that a Kohen may not defile himself for a slain relative, for his body is considered incomplete, and it is proper to heed this strict opinion. Number 14. Some ignorant Kohanim are accustomed to visit graves of the righteous, maintain that the graves of righteous people do not defile. They are in error, and such a practice should be protested. Number 15. Just as an adult Kohen is warned against defiling himself, so too are adult Kohanim warned concerning minors. As it is said, say to the Kohanim and say to them, and that's from Leviticus 21:1, because the word say is written twice, or say to blessed memory in the Gemara Masechet Yevamos 114a, inferred from this that the adults are warned concerning the minors. They must not be the direct cause of the defilement by bringing them into a house where there is a deceased person, but if the minor defiles himself on his own, there is no need to remove him. However, if he reaches the age of training, he should be removed. The pregnant wife of a Kohen is permitted to enter a house containing a corpse, even if it seems that she will give birth there, because perhaps it will be a girl, and if not, it may not be a viable child. In the Mishnah Berurah 343:3. Number 16. The Kohanim cannot force. If it was customary to move the body quickly to the place where they wash it, you may force it. In the Mishnah Berurah 310:13. The relative of the deceased to hasten the removal of the dead from its place so that they may enter their homes. Even if the synagogue is under the same roof, the Kohanim will prevent it from entering, unless the Kohen is ill and was unable to leave the house. In that case, the relatives are forced to remove the deceased, so as not to cause the sick Kohen to transgress the law of the Torah. If the deceased is an aborted fetus, his relative can be forced, in any event, to remove it, even on Shabbos, to a non-Jew. And that's the end of the chapter. Thank you for listening, and all the best. Fast well. Bye.